Well, gentlemen, according to my computer, it is right now 3 p.m. So I think if you all will mute, unless you're going to be talking, we will get this meeting started. I'm Steve Gillett. I'm one of the board members of the T-TRAK.org organization. I'm out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we have 4 topics to talk about today. First, we will have a couple of people talking about T-TRAK, the T-TRAK organization, and how we deal with clubs and super clubs. Then Eric Smith with Microtrains will be on to talk about what's going on out in Oregon. And then Terry Moore will be talking about putting metal wheels on rolling stock and how that affects track shorts. So we got one of our members from north of the border up in Canada to talk about that. And then our main topic, John Wallis will be talking about DCC monitoring. So we'll have the West Coast, the East Coast, the North Coast, and anybody else that wants to talk. But we have a pretty full slate. Let me also tell you now, as we get started, to go ahead and save the date. Next month's Zoom meeting will be on December the 12th, which again is a Saturday. And we're going to have a nice program for you that time. Bruce Alcock is going to be talking about quick signs, how to make them quick and dirty, get some signs for your buildings. And John Doring is going to be talking about what he learned building his first modules. So when he built his second T-TRAK modules, he did a better job. And he'll be talking about what he learned. And we'll also have one or two other short topics as well. Looks like right now we have 56 members. Again, we thank you all for joining us today. And without further ado, the first talk, Steve Jackson and Peter Trueherz are going to be talking about clubs and super clubs. So gentlemen, take it away.
Hello everybody, I'm Peter. I'm your treasurer. And as was just said, Steve and I will talk about clubs and super clubs and what's new with that. So next slide, Steve. So as you can see, if you go to the website, the format for the clubs page has changed just a little bit. On the page, there's a little lettering that says form. If you click that, it'll bring up the form, Steve, right there. And we ask if your club is not listed on the website, have somebody from your club fill this out. And it's not just modular T-TRAK, it's anything T-TRAK that we're looking for. If you want to be listed, so if somebody's in your state, your city, they know where you're at and how to get a hold of you. And so we'll have websites and Facebooks, either one or both. Steve, next. On the site, if you click on where the club's name is, right now it says your club here, or on the F for Facebook, it'll take you to that club's website. We've also listed what type of railroading the clubs do, T-TRAK, T-TRAK club, or whatever. So it gives you an idea of your traveling around. If you're moving, you know what's in your area. If you are a super club, you get the super club logo in front of your club's name and your website link. And now Steve will talk about super clubs.
All right, so the first item is just sort of what is a super club? And essentially what a super club is a super club or a club where all of the members are members of T-TRAK. And more importantly, they renew as a group. And I say that's more important only because I have no way of knowing if we have all of your members registered or not. But essentially, if you renew the whole club as a group, you're a super club. Just trying to encourage folks to join together and to participate in these kinds of activities together as well. If you're curious as to who the super clubs are, here's a list right now of all the ones that we have. You'll notice we do have 2 countries represented. We have both the United States as well as Switzerland. And we have 17 different states are in that group. Virginia has 3 clubs, and California has 2 super clubs. And then 2 of the clubs identify in multiple states. You'll actually go and see that if you look in Missouri and in Kansas, Heartland N-TRAK shows up in both places. So that's also a situation like Peter was talking about a minute ago, that if you wanted to make sure that folks coming to visit your area know that you're there, you can be listed twice. That doesn't bother us at all. We're happy to put you kind of wherever makes sense for you. So I wanted to kind of highlight some of those. So those are the existing clubs, super clubs we have right now. If you go and look on the website, they'll all have that little logo next to their club listing. And as far as the benefits of being a super club, you do get an additional discount in the store. There's a caveat to that. So all members get 5% when they order from the store online. The caveat with getting an additional discount, so you get 10% off when ordering from the store, is that the club also needs to make that order as a group. So there's a way to contact the store, and we can get an order form and actually do a 10% discount instead of the 5% for all members that would get anyway. But you can do an order as a whole club, and that way you can get an additional discount on those orders. It's an easier renewal for the membership. Essentially what happens is if you're a super club member, you don't get a notification at all about your renewal coming up. We track that on the back side, and I reach out to the club's point of contact in order to coordinate the renewals each year, because the whole super club has the same expiration date. And then super clubs, they can grab the super club logo from the website and use that on literature or on your own website as well. And then this is a relatively new program. It's kind of evolving as well. We've talked about a couple of other different potential benefits, but we'd love to hear from you. So if you have some ideas of things that you think would make it enticing for clubs to become super clubs, definitely reach out and let us know. Steve Jackson, you can reach out to me at membership@ntrak.org, and we'll be happy to hear from you with those ideas, and we can discuss those as a board. I mentioned the club logo, the super club logos. There's the 2 variations of it. There are actually a couple of other variations as well. So there's these same logos with only N-TRAK or only T-TRAK in them also. So there's 6 options that you can find on the website right now to go grab those logos and use those. And so if you wanted to become a super club, how do you do that? Reach out to membership@ntrak.org. Essentially, all I would really need is the club roster. So who is it that wants to be a part of this super club? And then who's the key point of contact? Because I'll need to, that's the person I'll reach out to for renewals each year. And then what we would do is we basically would just renew everybody, but we'd synchronize the dates. So if you have several members with dates all over the calendar, we do like a prorated year, so we can sync everybody up on one date. That way we can just do one annual renewal, and then that gets billed automatically to the key point of contact when it comes time. Essentially what happens is or not automatically, it's annually. What happens is when the super club renewal comes due, I reach out to them, and then we exchange rosters and try to make sure that everything's the same. Inevitably, there's a member that's maybe been added or removed throughout the course of the year, so I make sure we capture that. And it's also an opportunity to update any contact information as well, so we can exchange. Here's the addresses and phone numbers I have for folks. And that, right now, the key thing we really need is email addresses for everyone. But when those don't work, it's really handy to have mailing addresses as well as phone numbers, because I've been trying to track down all of the folks that have emails that bounce, and I've gone so far as mailing letters to people to try to get updated email addresses. So having as much information as possible on the members is helpful to us as we work through that for membership. So to access the super clubs, if you're looking at the website, up in the upper right-hand corner, you have those little 3 horizontal lines. And if you click that, it pops into the member section. Note that you do have to be logged in to access that section, but you can see I'm logged in because in the upper right-hand corner, my name is there. And if I wanted to access my account, I would just click my name. So once I'm logged in, you click the little 3 horizontal lines, members, and then you can go to SuperClubs. There's additional information. All of what I just presented is there, and then that'll continue to evolve. So we're always looking for feedback on SuperClubs and interested in people's input on that. But that's kind of a high-level overview of both the updated web page that Peter's been working on for clubs, as well as information about SuperClubs. So that's what I've got for you guys. And if you have questions for Peter, I guess we'd be happy to take those now, or kick it back to Mr. Gillett and move on to the next topic.
Steve, Keith Dart asked about whether the Super Club designation can be upgraded to include NMRA. The answer is a very strong no. We are separate organizations, and there are trademark issues.
All right, any other questions?
All right, thank you, Steve and Peter. Appreciate that. I need to remind, as we go into these other presentations, I want to remind you that if you do wish to comment, if you put your cursor at the bottom of the screen where everybody's ugly face is, you'll see a place for chat. And if you click on that, there will be a column on the right where you can do chat off your keyboard. And someone will be monitoring that as we get to questions at the end, but we don't want to interrupt the presentations with back and forth during the presentation. So, Eric, are you online?
I am. I'm right here.
All right. Well, if you are ready to go, you knock yourself out. Eric Smith, who is the president, CEO, and all-around grand poobah of Microtrains, is going to tell you what's new out there in that part of the country.
Well, thank you very much, Steve. And thank you to everyone here at N-TRAK for allowing me to join in on your Zoom meeting today. It's very special. Before I talk about what's new in Microtrain, I do want to take just a second and to say thank you to all of you individually and collectively as N-TRAK, because as many of you know, we had a horrible wildfire that blew through the Rogue Valley. That's where we're located in the southwest corner of Oregon back in September. We had 6 employees who lost everything. Their homes were burned to the ground, lost all their possessions. We had a GoFundMe account established, and we raised many thousands of dollars that were equally distributed to the 6 individuals, the 6 employees. And N-TRAK as an organization made a donation. And for that, I want to thank you very, very much, as do the 6 employees. I'm pleased to report that 3 of them have already moved into new homes. The other 3 are in the midst of transitioning into permanent living. And so all is going well there. So again, thanks. So today, moving on to what's new at Microtrains, I'd like to talk about 3 things. The first of which is our N-Scale 123,000 series 60-foot ribside high-cube boxcar with a double plug door. And I'm going to bring up an image of it. It's an exploded view diagram to illustrate firsthand all of the parts that have gone into this new car. So let's see if I can do this. I'm going to hit share screen. And can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, great. So as you can see, this is if you were to explode our car, this is what it looks like. You've got, of course, the body, the 2 doors, metal wheels. Other features include microfine printing, fine mold detail, separate end ladders and brake and rod detail, etched metal brake platforms, and painted underframes. The correct ride height is included, and of course, body mount magnetic couplers and our 36-inch metal wheels. The first release is now out, and I'm going to minimize this and hold up the finished first release in my hands and put it right in front of the camera. And here it is. So hopefully.
Nice.
Yeah, we got that.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
So that's that. The second release will be out in February, and that'll be a 3-pack as well. The first release, the TTX T-Box, is a 3-pack as well. So moving on, I'm going to now bring up the second new item, and it's in tooling right now. We've already started cutting steel, as we say, and I'm going to bring up a trade show placard that we had at the last train show, I should say, And that was all the way back in March at the Rocky Mountain Train Show in Denver, Colorado. And I'll bring it up. And I'm going to scroll this, so and I'll do so slowly so you can read a little bit of background on the prototype. This is the PS2 2-bay 2,003 cubic foot covered hopper. The features of our new car are in the second paragraph, and I'll continue to give you a moment to take a look at that. And to give you an idea, there are numerous road names for this PS2 2-bay covered hopper. We're going to be releasing Santa Fe, ATSF, Baltimore and Ohio, CNW, CG, Florida East Coast, Great Northern, Illinois Central. The list goes on and on. And we plan to release this in the first quarter of 2021. So I will now move on to our third and final new thing to share with you. And this is not new tooling, but rather it's a new car series, a prototype series, and we're naming this the Sweet Liquid Tank Car Series. And I have one more item to share. And this is a 12-car series. It'll be 12 months, all prototype. And the first one there is beehive corn syrup. A little background, as you can see, it's actually in the first few sentences. You know, these tank cars, they carry commodities such as corn syrup, cane syrup, honey, molasses, and they were shipped all over to processing plants, chocolate factories, breweries, and soft drink factories. And some of the names in our 12-car series will be beehive, of course. You can see it right there, a rendering of it. Hubinger Company, Flow Sweet, Miranda Sugar, Molasses Gilbert, Domino Sugar, Union Starch, Sugar Refining Company, Pennick and Ford, and others. So with that, I will stop that share, bring it back to the screen. And I know you've got a full agenda, so I wanted to be brief and cover those three things. And again, I thank you so much for allowing me to join in. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Eric,
Thank you, Eric.
very much.
Mhm.
Appreciate it. As I'm sure most of you know, Eric and Microtrains is the main sponsor of the N-Scale Enthusiast organization, and we were all disappointed to hear what that we lost another year's meeting, but we're all looking forward to 2022, I guess, which is back in Nashville. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Nashville, Tennessee.
Well, we'll hope we're all healthy with a shot in the arm by then. Thank you again, Eric. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
We'll just
All right.
put that.
That John, that means that you get to move up to the main table. And if you want to start your presentation on.
So a couple of months ago, I talked about DCC troubleshooting. And in there, I mentioned that one of the ways to troubleshoot is monitor. So I'm going to talk about monitor this time. And for both N-TRAK and T-TRAK layouts using JMRI. Now, first of all, JMRI, Java Model Railroad Initiative, it's free. You can get it from that website. It runs on Windows or Macs or Linux computers, but it does require Java. The current versions require 1.8. Okay. Now, JMRI confuses a lot of people. We talk about Decoder Pro, we talk about Panel Pro. There's also an Operations Pro and a Sound Pro, but they are all the same program. They are just different shells or menus, if you wish. Decoder Pro, the menus are arranged so you can program decoders. With Panel Pro, they're arranged to allow the creation of CTC type control panels, set up signaling, and the like. So it's one program. There was a question on one of the, I guess the JMRI mailing list a couple of weeks ago about whether you had one roster or two rosters, and you have one roster that you can access from any of those applications. Okay, so how do you hook it up? You got a computer, You can also use a Raspberry Pi instead of a desktop or a laptop. You use a USB cable to connect to an interface, and I'm talking DigiTRAKs here, PR3, PR4, local buffer, or the built-in ones on the newer command stations, and a LocoNet cable connecting to the command station or anywhere else on your LocoNet. It doesn't have to plug into the command station. It can plug into a UP5 or anything that's on the network. Now, instead of a normal DigiTRAKs command station, you could use a Sprague or the Locksound programmer or similar things in place of the command station. Those devices have the ability to act as a command station for one or a few locomotives, not running an entire layout. So fairly flexible. And for a computer, use whatever you have. Don't go out and buy a computer, and don't buy a powerful computer. Model railroading is not particularly computer heavy or processing heavy. JMRI has a lot of things in it. General tools, and then for DigiTRAKs, LocoNet tools. The ones shown in red on this chart are what you will use to do the monitoring function. You may use one of the built-in throttles. You will use the power control. You will use the Y throttle application. You will monitor LocoNet and stats, maybe, if you need to. You will almost always monitor slots. When setting up, you can configure a lot of stuff, BDLs, PMs, SE8s, DS64s, etc. You can configure the command station, and I'll show you that. Configure the LocoNet ID in the duplex group and start the LocoNet server. Now, unless you are really into LocoNet, you're not going to send any packets or messages or monitor the LocoNet, because what you're seeing with monitoring the LocoNet is the LocoNet messages, and they are scrolling pretty fast, so you're going to have trouble reading them unless you are really knowledgeable in what those commands mean. Okay, some additional capabilities. If you have done your layout plan in AnyRail or X-Track CAD, you can directly import your layout plan into PanelPro, so you don't have to put it in twice. There's a separate program that runs off of JMRI called Krandic Automated Traffic System, CATS. This was around before the operations part of JMRI was developed, and this can be used for dispatching and that kind of stuff. And then locomotive speed matching. Our club has developed a layout with a speed matching script that runs off of JMRI to speed match locomotives. So you can develop your own application if you wish. All right, now for the screenshots that follow, this is the setup I used. It's a fake setup. It's my desktop computer, the computer I'm using right now, and the Linksys router that I use. I have a DCS 240. I'm using a USB cable from the computer to the PR3 port on the DCS 200. Sitting behind the 240 is a PM42 and a UR92. There is no connection to TRAK. In fact, there isn't TRAK within 20 feet of the setup. Don't need it to do this. And then I just grabbed a bunch of throttles and smartphones, and I used them to populate the slots. Well, when you first start up JMRI, this is the screen you see to set its preferences. You select your system manufacturer, your connection. In this case, it's the built-in 240, which is a PR3. The serial port, in my case, is COM4. It may be different for your computer. And then the type of command station. And then you would click Save at the bottom left. JMRI will exit and restart with these preferences being used. A application that you will use from time to time is power control. You can park that anywhere on the screen that you want so that you can see it and power on or off as you need to. You can configure the command station. This is what I read from the DCS 240 that I have. A base command station with its defaults will all be T. Okay, if you change to what it says in the words, then you click and put it to C and you write. Okay, example being number 18, extend booster short shutdown to a half a second. I always do that. And if you remember from the talk a couple of months ago, I talked about short circuit timing, that the command station has to be longer than the power manager, which has to be longer than an auto reverser. So that's what you do there. The other thing we always do is number 20, disable address 0. The more you use address 0, you take away bandwidth from LocoNet, so you lose capacity. Anyways, that's an example of what you can do. You can set it up as you like. All right, then you start Y throttle. This is the Y throttle screen. It shows you, in this case, the computer name, John PC is my name, and the URL and the port number. And then as you log in, I have an iPod, which I used, and it says I'm logged in, and the address I selected was 3040, and the L stands for it's a long address. You can turn track power on and off using the buttons there. And this is one that I always have on the screen. Somebody comes over and says, I've lost connection. I can just glance at this and see whether they've lost their connection or whether they're having difficulty connecting. So it's a useful one to have on the screen all the time. All right, now I said you could configure a lot of stuff. There's an example of how you can configure a PM42. And you'll notice at the top left, it says unit address. That is one thing that JMRI cannot do. You have to assign an address to a PM42 board, and you have to do it using the instructions in the PM42 manual from Digitrax. So once you have the address, then you can type that in and you're selecting that particular PM42 and you can read its status. It'll tell you the current limit and you can change it, the speed of the circuit breaker, from slow to fast or normal is standard. And you can also click as to whether it's auto reversing, and then you can write that to the PM42. Now, what's the use of this? If you're in a modular layout like we do, you don't always know what is the right current limit or speed. And having a LocoNet connection to your PM42 board means that you can change all that stuff on the fly. If all of a sudden you find one section that the PM42 powers is shutting down all the time and there's no short circuits, it's just the number of trains or locomotives, you can change the 3 amps to 4.5 amps. And that solves it. You don't have to go anywhere. You do it all from the computer. All right, then you've also got the duplex group and the LocoNet ID. Now, whether or not you are using IR, simplex, or duplex, you need to set a LocoNet ID. And the default is 0. There are 8 values, 7 being the maximum. So you open up the configure ID, LocoNet ID window and query it. It'll tell you what you have. Or if you have multiple in your different URs, it'll be blank and then you put in a number and set. Now, the default being 0, I never use 0 at a train show. I usually use 7, which is, the furthest one away. Then you got configure the duplex group. You got the group name, the group channel, the password, and group ID. Those last 2 are almost never used. Digitrax took a transceiver module in the UR92 and in the throttle off the shelf, and it provided for the 4 ID marks, and the password and ID were never really implemented. So you can do group identity, read the group information. So it found that the UR92, which that says they found one, is T-TRAK 017. So that's the group name, channel 16. You can change that, and then at the bottom, click on Set Group Information. Now, there's an optional tab there called Channel Scan. I would not use that. I would use the DigiGroup Setup program from Digitrax. It's a better scan. Or if you have a smartphone with a Wi-Fi scanner on it, find out what the channels are, use that. But at this point, don't use the channel scan. Again, a point I made a couple of months ago, the UR92 hits channels 11 to 26. The 93 is 11 to 25. The 93 has twice the power of the 92, but channel 26, according to the FCC, has limited power. So that's why Digitrax dropped channel 26. Okay, this chart I showed you before. It's just the slot monitor as it appears. It shows the slot. You can e-stop or emergency stop any slot, the address in that slot, the speed, the status, whether it's 28, 14, 128, its use, which could be idle, common. It could show it as a sub of a channel for a consisted set. You can free the slot. Normally a slot will free on its own, but there is a requirement for that. The locomotive in that slot must not be part of a consist, and it must be set at 0 speed. If it's part of a consist or it's at a speed other than 0, it will remain in that slot. That's what the free button's for, so you can kick it out. Next column says whether it's consisted or not. Then there's a throttle ID. As far as I know, Digitrax had never made use of the throttle ID. And in fact, not every Digitrax throttle has a unique ID. So it's not a really useful parameter at this point. Then it shows directions, forward or reverse, and then the first 8 functions, F0 being the headlight, whether they're on or not. Okay, so I made up a dummy setup. Here's the same thing with the dummy. And I just tossed in addresses and they filled up slots in order. If you want to find, let's say somebody says, hey, I've lost control. My engine's 5578. I can't control it. Well, you got to look through address and find 5578. Meantime, the train may have collided with another train or left the layout. So this is a spreadsheet. At any spreadsheet, you click the column at the top and it sorts. So you can do the same. So click address and it sorts it in ascending order. And there you see all the addresses in ascending order. So we can find 5578 very quickly and hit e-stop, and that will stop it from running away. So that's kind of what you do to monitor it. That's, you know, you don't have to sit there and look at this all the time. I come and I glance at it every few minutes. If I find trains that have been not released, I'll free them or release them. But that's about it. I look at the Wi-Fi window if somebody comes and complains. But as long as everything is running fine, nobody's screaming at you, that's all you need to do.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it very much.
Okay.
Presentation. Now, Terry, have you got your problem solved and are you ready to go?
First of all, I'm the guy behind the mask in the previous newsletter, so I have been officially unmasked. And anything that I do write or present will not be anywhere near as wonderfully explicit and technical as John's, and he can do the DCC because I will never touch it.
Send me your charts, Terry. I'll fix them up for you for a fee.
That's the fee problem. The Canadian dollar is not that strong right now.
I accept
And
Canadian dollars.
And also, when it comes to Raspberry Pi, I'm afraid this is about as close as I get to Raspberry Pi. So, as I said, most of my presentations are basic. Most of my one-on-one interaction is primarily newbies and just general information. And I'll take all of the special training to the people that definitely know it a lot better than I. Matter of fact, when it comes to DCC, I like my utility throttle. Thank you very much. Okay, now, I do have a little thing here that I hope will show up. And here we go. Now, I'm sure everybody is well aware of the Bombardier commuter cars produced by Athearn. This whole thing with me began with a rather unfortunate train show. The DCC system was causing problems all weekend, and one of the things that cropped up was my GO train. Bombardier cars, I love running Toronto GO trains. So the train was having difficulties, wasn't running, but there were already DCC issues, so I didn't realize that the problem was definitely in my own backyard. Eventually, I noticed that I could see the DCC power station from where I was sitting. And I realized that some of the DCC issues, according to the little lights, were being caused at the same coincident time as my GO train was being energized. Now, the yard that I built has single track blocking, single rail blocking, so that I can park trains, or anybody can park trains in the yard, turn the siding off, and reduce the overall load on the system if it's a DCC system with lighted passenger trains and sound locomotives. Or in the case of a DC system, they can kill the train on the siding and it can sit there forever. So the troubleshooting determined it looked like every time I energized my GO train, the DCC system had an issue. So finally I realized that, yeah, it's my train. Now, in this case, it turned out that the wheels were the problem. So 4 wheel sets for each of 3 new Athearn cars that I had just picked up because of the nice new GO Transit paint jobs. All 3 cars, all 4 wheel sets on each car wound up coming off. Now, before I go any further with this, for those of you that don't already know, yeah, I'm a Canuckian. I live in the northwestern Ontario bush at a town called Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay is the home of Bombardier, the manufacturers of those bi-level cars that Athearn models so wonderfully. And you'll see those bi-level cars throughout the States in various commuter service. So you'll notice the color of the GO car in this slide, and that's why my slide is green. So there's a little bit of a tie-in there, just trying to be colorful. As I said before, my commuter train of choice is Toronto's GO Transit. I'm a Toronto kid, and as a matter of fact, I actually took my first ride on a GO train in Toronto just before last Christmas. It shows I run my train in push mode, The behavior of such a train leads to comments that the train is going backwards. Well, this provides a perfect opportunity to initiate a conversation and engage the spectator in the show, the hobby, the scale, and the fact that the train is actually going forward. You can see here the Go Transit old colors and the new colors, which is why I decided to run the train in this aforementioned train show. And it was every new car in this box that required changing. Now, the trucks on these cars are unlike the usual trucks with outside frames that we're used to, with wheel sets on axles with their little pointy ends fitting into their appropriate journals. You'll notice a little variety of trucks and wheels and stuff here. You'll notice, oh look, some Rapido couplers, and those little trucks that don't have couplers on them really are brand spanking new couplerless trucks from cars that have body mounted couplers. I'll get into that at a later date. Now, these wheel sets in these Athearn Bombardier cars are designed differently, again, because they are not outside frame trucks. So these wheel sets are made of 3 pieces. Each wheel has a stub axle that fits snugly into a plastic tube. The gauge of these wheels can be easily adjusted by adjusting how far the stub axles are inserted into the tube. Now, we all know how important wheel gauging can be. So usually with our solid plastic wheel sets, they're not adjustable. But these, in this particular case, are very easily adjustable. They can be put, the wheels and stub axle can be pushed in far enough into the tube that they touch. Now, since these are metal, it creates the rail-to-rail short circuit that I was experiencing in my aforementioned train show. The wheel set itself clips into the truck in a totally different fashion from our exterior frame trucks. Matter of fact, it's very similar to what you used to see on old toy cars, that the wheels and axle were one piece and there were just these little clips underneath the body that these things fit into. Any such short circuits that are caused by having the wheels shoved together to the point that the stub axles touch inside the tube can be easily corrected by simply spreading the wheels apart ever so slightly to create an insulating gap between the ends of the stub axles inside the retaining tube, and of course subsequently checking your gauge. That's about all there is to it, and this is what I had to do. Created a nice insulated wheel set. Go train ran fine. Well, at least it would have, except that it was a bad weekend. So now I'm just hoping that Athearn will create the nice new cab cars, which have this extended nose on them. It's a safety issue, apparently. So thank you very much, and that's about all I have to say, and it looks like I might have actually survived. Thanks, guys.
One of the questions on the chat line is if the gauge is set correctly, do the axle stubs touch or not?
If the wheels are set properly, they don't touch. But my issue that brought this all up was these were brand new cars from the factory, and I guess in the manufacturing, assembling the wheels and axles, they just simply got pushed together. And of course, all of these things never get, pre-tested. So it didn't manifest itself until I tried to run the cars at the show. And these were brand spanking new. I picked them up only a short time before the show at that time. It's a couple of years ago now.
Okay, the next question is there room in the tubes to insert a small piece of tape or dab of insulation of anything like that that will keep them from squeezing together again?
The tubes are very small. The stub axles themselves are about a 32nd of an inch. They're not really very big. Now, with glue or crazy glue or something like that, you would really want to make sure you had your gauge correct before the glue sets. Now, the tube is actually quite tight, so I don't think there would be any issues with the wheels accidentally squeezing together, causing the axles to touch and creating the short circuit situation. It really is quite tight. When I took that one little wheel out of the tube for the picture, it was an effort to reinsert it into the tube, and I think it was just a passing manufacturing issue that would actually never be found out until the car was actually used. So I can't blame anybody. Nothing against Athearn. It's just an issue that is there. And if somebody thinks that they have to adjust the gauge of their wheels, they may go too far and unwittingly create the short circuit.
Okay. And another question is, have you had any problems with wheels coming closer together over time? I don't know if you've had these that long yet.
No, as I said, everything does fit together quite tightly, and it would take some effort, I believe, like I say, trying to reassemble that little wheel into that tube. I think it would take quite a bit of effort to actually make them touch.
Okay. All right. We have another question on a different topic for Steve Jackson or Peter. Bob Goldhammer wants to know, he said, I signed on a couple of minutes late. Is the information about the Supergroup program accessible on the main N-TRAK webpage, or do you have to log in?
So for the Super Club information, you do have to log in because it's buried into the members only section. So to get to it, you've got to log in, click those little 3 horizontal lines, click the members page, and then it's one of those pages underneath there.
Okay, that looks like all the questions we have right now. So
I'm seeing several more, Steve.
Go ahead.
One of them was the presentation I gave on DCC a couple of months ago, available to download. The answer is yes. It's on the N-TRAK YouTube channel, so you can see it there. There was something up further on. Oh, JMRI and Roco Z21. I'm not sure what you're asking there.
This is from Alexander.
If the question is, does JMRI work with the Z21? I don't know. But the JMRI system works with a lot of different DCC systems. So I suggest you go on the JMRI website and check it out.
All right. All right, Dave, you wanted to make a comment, Dave Ferrari?
Yes, John, thank you. I recently ordered a couple modules from CMR Products that I thought might be interesting for people to know about. One of them was for use between a pair of Jackson junctions where you're in a T-TRAK layout with singles between standard corners, so you need to put a single between the junctions. So I had them cut a piece that was the length of a single, but the width of a Jackson junction with the track centered. So it looks, well, it just came yesterday, but when I get it together, it'll look nice right in between the junctions I have with a river flowing between them. And then I had them cut a square piece for the center of a Mobius layout. In other words, a 90-degree crossing, which is not, I don't know that either are on their website yet, but they've asked me to test that one before they put it up there to make sure it works properly. So, but I think there's a lot of people out there that would be interested in the 90-degree crossing. And, you know, I know we've seen the crossing that I believe was the Iowa Club that Joe has run in several shows back in the good old days when there were shows. So just an FYI.
Hey, Dave, did they leave the top fully square? Because one of our members has one of those as well, but they like cut out the body of it, so it's a lot smaller. Do they have it as one big square right now for that double crossing?
Honestly, I didn't open the box yet. The box is 4 feet tall. I'm having trouble finding a spot to deal with that right now. But they were supposed to make it a full square.
Okay.
So I'll let you know that when I open it up.
Yeah, it'd be great to know how that works out for you. That's good. Our guy cut it out because it made it a lot more maneuverable for him.
Right.
But those are really fun modules to have, the double crossing in the middle. You get every kid loves to watch you run into each other because you will. No matter how much you try to have somebody stand, at least for our club, we have somebody try to watch it or whatever, and somebody walks up, a kid walks up and asks you a couple questions, you turn away for a second, next thing you know, there's four trains in the ditch. Right, exactly. Don't bring your big brass steam locomotives for those shows for the public like that. Bring your locomotives that'll take a little bounce off a module onto the table. Luckily, it's T-TRAKs. They're just going, 3 or 4 inches down, but still.
Right. The Iowa layout has control. It has blocking and signals and cuts the power. But TrainFest one year, there was a Japanese bullet train running, and it was just going too fast to stop. So, best intents, it still doesn't always work.
Our guy does not like electrons. So he was like, yeah, I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm just putting it down and we're rolling through. Everybody pay attention. So
yeah, that's what we're going to do. So we'll see how that works.
It's great. And then the Mobius is really fun because you end up in DCC with basically the whole entire layout is one track. Because
Right.
because you're crossing through that crossing, you end up with one continuous layout that goes on every piece of rail you have on the table. Pretty cool.
Yes. That's one of the things I first noticed about that. I said, wait a minute, it's all one. I always like to trace the route,
Right, exactly.
Anyway,
Makes the wiring fun, but yes.
Yeah. And the other thing we did is we ordered a pair of triples that are 20.9 or 21 inches deep to use use as junctions in a layout with wide corners, the 19-inch radius wide corners. And I think I figured out a way to get the 17 3/8 effective radius using pieces of track with just one little short section in the center, the way the original Jackson Junction track configuration was. So I'm going to cross my fingers and I'll report back on that as well.
All right, well, thank you, guys. Let me make a little plug here. By the way, at last count, we're at 69 people signed in tonight, or this afternoon. As I said at the beginning, our next Zoom meeting is on December the 12th, which is 4 weeks from now, I guess, something like that. We'll have these scheduled every month, and we're always looking for new presentations. So if anybody has a topic that they have some knowledge on and would like to share, we would appreciate you contacting us through the website at, what is it, info, Bruce, what's it at?
Okay, Zoom@ntrak.org.
Zoom@ntrak.org. Send us a message and let us know what you would like to make a presentation on. And if you're a little shy about that and you have something you'd like to hear something on and have somebody else do the work, I bet we can find a way to make that happen. So if there's a topic you would like to have more information on, again, let us know, then we'll see if we can get it scheduled. We are right at the hour, which means we've got our hour in.
We've got a quick poll we want to put up, which I'm going to launch right now.
All right.
Okay.
While you're filling that in, guys, and if you're thinking about doing a presentation. If you're not comfortable with PowerPoint, we can help you with that as well.
I've got one comment about the Adams double crossing. That fits on a 23.5-inch square piece of module. And if you don't want to do a fully automated control system, a 4-pole double throw switch will let you control most of the accidents.
I would challenge any of my club members to figure out how to crash into you anyway. There's not enough electron controls in the planet to keep it from happening, but it's all right.
Yeah.
You get more points with the public when you do that anyway.
You actually do. I mean, I'm making a joke about it, but like the kids absolutely love it, and especially like we'll go through and watch. Like we'll kind of casually cue each other and be like, yeah, okay, Razor, you stop and I'll go, right? And so you'll kind of pull up right to the edge and you'll stop, and then I'll go right in front of you, and then you'll start up and come by. The kids love to watch that stuff. The parents do too. It's good time. And it's fun for us. It creates a lot of, you're not just having the trains running around in a circle. You actually get them they're interacting with each other, and it's fun to do. It can be tiring, but it's very fun.
There is a nice video with one double cross that is fully automated, and it shows the trains coming to a nice halt. Although sometimes I think they don't know exactly how long the train is, so I think if you get a long enough train, it would still be in the intersection before the other train got there.
Well, thanks for the comment about the switch. Well, maybe we'll try that. But I saw a comment in the chat where watching your trains is a myth. It does really seem to be, doesn't it? I keep saying, follow your train, but no.
How did we get John Mark on there?
I answered yes to a question. That might be a bad thing.
No, you're right.
I'd like to see an AnyRail version of that double crossing, because I'm currently building a double lollipop that has 2 crossings in it.
I tried to price that whole module out one time, and I got way over $400, and I gave up.
What, for a double cross?
For that automated double cross, the one that's in the video.
Send me your email, and I'll send you the AnyRail file when I have it all ready to go.
This sounds like something that somebody needs to write up as an article for the newsletter.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, I think we've come back to the end of the thing. We've got Paul's left a link to some stuff here on the chat, but other than that, I think we are done. I want to thank everyone for attending this month's meeting, and we look forward to seeing all of you back next month. And be sure to tell any other people you know about this, that if they're not members of N-TRAK, it's really easy to sign on. You just go to the website, and on the home page, follow the instructions, and we'll take your $10, and you're good for a year. And I think you get your $10 worth of stuff without any problem at all. So we look forward to that. There's our results. Bruce is sharing. And let's see.
Sounds like people want to see
It's the
some
right link,
scenery
so I
stuff.
think we need to leave. Don't you think so? Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next month. And Dave, I look forward to hearing from you momentarily.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.